they were done in a hurry, so we had to do 80% of the work. That was my first engagement with electoral laws. We drafted the elections regulations, general regulations. We also drafted the voter registration regulations, and we also drafted the dispute resolution regulations. These are the regulations which were passed on time to assist on midway of the elections. Chair?
Do you want to proceed with your introduction so that we deal with your introduction before your achievements?
So,
yeah,
okay, I can. So basically, I can say.
So you had reached at clerk assistant.
After working as a clerk assistant, I was deployed in the legal department in Parliament, where I rose through the ranks as a senior legal counsel, and eventually, by the time I left Parliament, I was a principal legal counsel. Chair, in the year 2013, I applied and was appointed as a founding clerk of Nairobi County Assembly. I was sent there as an interim clerk, and I was the one who was supposed to start and develop the county assembly. So that was also the path. I worked there for a period of 9 years, and afterwards, I left the assembly in the year 2022 after the new government had come into place, and there were challenges which, given opportunity later, I'll be able to explain. And I was supposed, given the circumstances, I was either supposed to go back or start my legal practice. For that purpose, I decided to open my law firm, where I am now as a managing partner. I'm also a consultant. I also run a consultancy firm called the Legislative Center, where also I am the managing partner dealing with the issues of legislative development. For the last 2 years, I've also been the legal advisor to the governor of Isiolo County. So, Chair, back to your question, the reason why I believe that I'm suitable to become the chairman of IEBC is that, based on my experience, I have a well-rounded qualifications, both as a political manager. I also have legislative experience. I also have public finance management and administration experience. And I'm also a lawyer of a period of 18 years, so therefore I have legal experience to be an effective chairman of IEBC.
As a legal advisor to the governor of Isiolo County, is that a civil service job or it's a consultancy? What is it?
It was a contract job whose term has ended, which has already come to an end. It's a political appointment. Legal advisors are not per se within the scheme of service of the basically governor's officers within the governor's office. So we work under the chief of staff, and we are not in the mainstream county public service. But my contract has come to an end.
But you draw a salary?
Yes, we draw salaries and allowances.
And at the same time, you're running a law firm?
No, because these are part-time jobs. All the political advisors are part-time jobs. They're not full-time officers.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Linda?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Ngwele Muvengei. Now, apart from your professional legal background, which we are aware that you are well grounded, looking at the documents that are before us, and your experience as an advocate of 18 years standing. Apart from that, do you have any other skills, competencies, and disciplines outside the legal profession that you intend to use if you become the chairman of the IEBC in your administration?
Yes. Thank you very much, my learned counsel. I believe that I possess around 5 skill sets, which makes me an ideal candidate to become the chairman of IEBC. Based on the experience, having worked in Parliament, having worked in the county government, I possess political management experience. I believe that the chairman of IEBC, the IEBC is a political institution. The IEBC is an institution which midwives and which assists in midwifing the political process in the country. Therefore, the IBC requires a chairman who possesses political management experience to assist the commission navigate the political landscape and also in stakeholder engagement with the politicians. Apart from the public, who are also one of the clans for the IBC, the other stakeholder for IBC are the political actors. And therefore, a chairman of IBC requires to possess political management experience. And having worked in national parliament, having worked in the County Assembly of Nairobi, which is a politically charged institution, both of them are politically charged institutions, have developed skill sets and experiences which, if I become the chairman of IBC, I will be able to assist the commission achieve in its stakeholder engagement and navigate the political landscape. The other skill and experience which I bring to the table is public management and administration experience. I've been an accounting officer for a period of over 8 years. I've been an accounting officer of Nairobi County Assembly. Nairobi County Assembly is the largest county assembly in Kenya. Out of the 49 legislatures in Kenya, if you count Senate and the 47 county assemblies, Nairobi County Assembly is the second largest legislature in Kenya. I've been the accounting officer for that particular institution, and during my tenure in the county assembly, when I went to the county assembly and I was sent by the transition authority to establish the assembly, there were no institutions. I came from parliament. When I landed in City Hall, there were no institutions. The only thing which I went there with was Article 177 of the Constitution, together with the sergeants at arms, officers in this, who serve the assembly. So I had to build the institution from the scratch. At that period of time, I had only 1 month to swear in the members of the county assembly. So upon landing in City Hall, unlike other assemblies in the country who are lucky and privileged to have inherited established structures, that is, all the county assemblies were supposed to inherit the municipal structures, that is, the county government structure, staff, and the buildings. Nairobi County Assembly did not inherit any. All the facilities, the staff, and the employees were transited to the executive arm. So having landed there, I had a period of 1 month to swear in members of the county assembly. And within that 1 month, and there were 127 members. That is the largest number of MCAs in the country. Of course, the second one is almost 90. So upon swearing in the members, I had to build the structures. The first one was the county assembly structure, which is a constitutional body. I had to assist in the establishment of the county assembly. That is the political side of the assembly.
So what skill is that?
So this skill is a public finance management and administration skill.
Okay.
And with that particular skill, just a follow-up on that skill, the county assembly is a mirror of national assembly. So they have to be the body which is responsible for the day-to-day providing services and facilities and oversight of the administration of the assembly. It's called the County Assembly Service Board. I also had to establish the County Assembly Service Board, where I became the secretary of the board. So here I was the procedural advisor and also the secretary of the board. Upon the board coming into place, I established the structure of the county assembly. We did not have the organizational structure for the institution. So I came up with the organizational structure. I assisted the board in recruitment of officers. I personally, because of my vast experience in National Assembly, I participated in building the capacity of these officers, developed the manuals and the regulations which govern the services. So, Chairman, this demonstrates that I possess administrative experience. In terms of the public finance management structure, experience is that the assembly did not have any building. The assembly did not have any offices. The assembly did not have a chamber. The assembly did not have a committee room. It had zero. And I brought a proposal to the board, and having brought the proposal to the board, we agreed that we needed to build a new chamber. We did not have a chamber. The chamber we were supposed to inherit was actually the old council chamber, which could only accommodate 60 MCAs. But here we were 127 MCAs, and then this house ought to function. What we did is I identified a building, an abandoned, disused facility within the city hall, it used to be a movie theater. So within a period of 3 years, within a period of 2 years, with a budget of 600 million, I was able to remodel that movie theater into an assembly chamber, equipped with modern, ultra-modern digital multimedia congress system. From that project, Chair, I'm proud to inform this panel that we made a saving of 70 million, and we did not use any consultant. I requested the county secretary to second technical officers from the executive who assisted in the project. That project, Chair, has never raised any single audit query. That project was never investigated, has never raised any criminal or any malpractice in terms of procurement. We delivered it on time, we paid all the contractors, and we never had pending bills. So, Chairman, this demonstrates my public finance management experience. I believe that IBC requires a chairman who has got practical experience. Even though procurement is the preserve of the technical officers in the IBC requires a chairman who has got hands-on experience, who can guide and assist the commission in implementing its procurement processes.
So you have mentioned 4?
I've mentioned 2. That is, the other one, Chairman, is a legislative experience.
Okay.
So I've dealt with the political experience, political management experience.
Public administration and finance.
Public administration and finance. Public finance management and administration.
Legislation.
The legislative experience.
Then next.
The legislative experience, maybe, Chairman, if you allow me, the legislative experience is very critical. Yeah. Throughout the period of time, I've served both in the county assembly and in Nairobi and parliament. I refer myself as a legislative expert. I've drafted laws both at the county government and the national level. Even what I do nowadays, in my consultancy, I draft policies for national government agencies. I draft bills for county governments and county government agencies. So I have the requisite legislative experience. Chairman, the IBC, right now, there are legislations which are pending approval by the Commission. I'm aware that the IBC has got around 4 bills which are waiting approval. I'm also aware that the IBC has got around 8 regulations which are waiting the Commission to come on office. It's therefore imperative that the IBC should have a chairman or a member who appreciates the legislative development process. And I believe that a skill set which will be very useful in the IBC. Lastly, Chairman, as an advocate of the High Court for the period of 18 years, I've appeared in courts. I call myself a dispute resolution expert. I've argued cases in all levels of courts. I've argued precedent-setting cases. I'm well-grounded in the areas of law. I believe that the legal requirement for a chairman of IBC should a person who possesses the experience, or the qualification of a judge of the Supreme Court. Chairman, I believe that I have that experience that I can offer the IBC. Chairman, as you are well aware, the IBC is one of the most legally regulated institutions. It has very many laws which govern its operations. It has many regulations. IBC also participates, IBC is also supposed in its mandate to resolve the issues of settlement of political party disputes. I believe with my experience as a lawyer, I'll be able to assist the commission and get the members in the legal, how to navigate in the legal minefield and resolve the disputes which will be coming before the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Ngwele, for that explanation. Now, tell this panel, out of your experience and in your journey, in your career journey so far, has your leadership skills been tried and tested? And if so, please explain to this panel how such an experience has occurred throughout you in some time in your journey, in your career journey, especially in instances where you've had high pressure work, because you know during the electoral period, the IEBC commissioners and the chairperson usually find themselves in a very high, intense, politically, political environment that has different actors and some of which you have seen in the previous elections, 2022, 2017, 2013, how it has been, including 2007 when we had the post-election violence. How has, in your journey, in your career journey, how have you been affected, and how has your leadership been tested? Please explain to this panel.
Thank you very much, Wakili. From the period in which I became the clerk of Nairobi County Assembly, everybody knows that Nairobi County Assembly is one of the most high pressure and heated legislatures in the country. And for you to be the clerk of the county assembly, you have to develop certain attributes which will assist you to navigate the politics of the day. And navigating political challenges was part of my day-to-day processes. So by the time I left the assembly, I'd already built the ability to navigate through high pressure processes, and I had to build in myself certain values. One was an element of fidelity to the law, that as long as you stand by the law, you'll never find yourself in problems. The other one was I had to develop personal attributes. One of it was on conflict management and consensus builder. When you sit between members of the county assembly, you are the neutral person. You've got no interest. You're not aligned to any of the political formation, and for that reason, you have to gain the confidence of the politician so that they can trust your advice. If you are a partisan person, they'll never gain the trust of your advice. And from that, I emerged as a leader in the Nairobi County. And of course, throughout the process, I encountered challenges. My biggest challenge was in 2017, when now the county assemblies were being sworn in. Under the law, that is the election law, the elections of the speaker is supposed to be conducted by the clerk of the county assembly. Basically, the clerk of the county assembly is the returning officer in the elections of the speaker. That is under the Elections Act and the standing orders. In 2017, I was the one who swore in the members. And before I went to swear in the members, the governor had already gazetted the swearing of the members. Around 8:30, I received a call, and I was told to go to the county governor's office. There was an urgent meeting. When I went to the office, I got into a room, dressed and robed, ready to go to the chamber to swear in members. I found a collection of members, leaders from parliament, senate, even my political leaders. And the issue at the table was that the list of the nominated members had been gazetted earlier, a few days earlier, and according to the discussions on the table, some members had been sneaked in. So the request for me was to delay or to stop the swearing-in ceremony and elections of the speaker. Yet it is a statutory function. There I was standing, and these were the mightier of political heavyweights in the country. So I stood there. One of the leaders looked at me and told me, kindly use wisdom. So at that particular time, I told the members that the gazettement has already been effected, that the swearing-in must be conducted. And the time of swearing-in has already been gazetted as 9 a.m. The only way you can stop the swearing-in is by production of a court order. Of course, the argument was that there was a court order going round. I demanded for the court order. I told them, using my political management experience, I told them, this is the law, but I can only stop when you produce the court order. So the best I can do as a consensus builder, I'll go to the chamber, since the standing orders allow you as a speaker, because of the speaker of the day, to adjourn the sitting so that I can allow the court order to be produced. So I told them I'm going to go to the house, I'm going to invoke the powers of the speaker of the day, because knowledge of a court order as a lawyer, and you know it very well, that you can be in contempt of court when you're aware of existence of court order and you've gone against the court order. So I assigned one of my legal counsels to go with the court and assist to get the court order. I called after 1 hour. She told me they have not even gone anywhere. So there was actually no court order. So without reference to the political leadership, I walked, I led the procession to the house, I swore the members, I swore in the members, I conducted the election of the speaker, and when I was walking out, the same political leadership came and met me, and they told me, you are a lawyer. So I was basically able to navigate that process through the fidelity to the law and through my political management skills which I've gained over a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngwele. Back to you, Chairman. Thank you.
Now we will ask Carol Kituku to ask you some questions.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Muvengi.
Good afternoon, Council.
Let's have a quick conversation on, now that you identify yourself as an expert on dispute resolution, let's have a conversation on that area. Have you been involved in any way in resolution of electoral disputes in Kenya using the court system?
Not at all. Although I've worked with a colleague of mine, that is Dr. Mdomi Dhiankulu, I've worked on him in the background in the elections petition that he has been handling as his advisor. But not in the technical appearance in the court. But I've been working with Dr. Mdomi Dhiankulu in the petitions. I've worked with him with the petition which was for the last election petition. I also worked with him. So that the reason why I worked with him also wanted to learn.
Which one is this? The presidential,
this
the
is
gubernatorial, which one?
Yeah, this is the presidential petition.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's pick it up from there. So what is your understanding of the mandate of the IBC in regard to dispute resolution of the electoral matters?
Thank you very much, our Council. The mandate of IBC with respect to resolution of dispute matters is anchored in the Constitution. Under Article 88(4), the IBC is given the mandate to resolve electoral disputes. And also within the Constitution, the IBC is supposed to resolve electoral disputes relating the pre-elections electoral disputes relating to nominations. That is disputes arising from or relating to nominations. That is the constitutional mandate of IEBC in terms of dispute resolution. And of course, within the Elections Act, now this process now is further enacted, and IEBC has developed, and I was part of the process which came up with those regulations. These are now the rules and procedure of dispute resolution of 2012, which, when I was a clerk of the delegated legislation, I assisted in the development. So IEBC is tasked with resolving disputes arising from and relating to nomination, but all the disputes post-elections, they go to the election petition courts.
At what time do we say that the mandate of the IBC is over and the mandate of the court starts? What triggers that?
The declaration of results. The minute the results are declared and a candidate is declared and is given the relevant certificate, then now the mandate of the election court kicks in.
Okay, so let's go back again to the IBC. Does it have any other mandate for dispute resolution outside the nomination process within the electoral cycle?
Yes. IBC also, there's an issue of code of conduct. Article 84 of the Constitution requires any candidate standing for elections to comply with the code of conduct. That is the political party and the candidates to comply with the code of conduct prescribed by the IBC. Therefore, IBC under the Elections Act, I think it's in the schedule, it has prescribed the code of conduct of candidates and political parties during the electoral period. That is after the gazettement of the election period until the votes are declared. So the issues of code of conduct and this mandate arises from Article 81, which requires that an election, free and fair elections, free from intimidation, threats, undue influence, and corruption.
So, Council, what is the specific mandate then, therefore, of the IBC? I understand what the law says, so I am just interested to have a conversation on how and does the IBC get involved in dispute resolution outside the nomination processes? This is, you understand the electoral cycle.
Yeah.
So within the electoral cycle, from during, and post. So let's go to pre. Right? Pre-nomination. Does IBC have any mandate there?
What we need to understand is the period which is prescribed by law is electoral period. Electoral period is a period after gazettement and declaration of elections. So that entire period of time, of course, the IBC will announce the period for nomination. So the issues of primaries, the issues relating to primaries, of course, are preserved of the IBC, but they have been transferred to the political parties dispute tribunal. Then now leaves the IBC to deal with the issues of nomination per se. That is where a person is challenged. But back to your question, the issue of code of conduct requires the IBC to have a committee at the national level which is supposed to deal with the issue of enforcement of code of conduct.
So I was particularly getting interested in hearing your views on how the IBC resolves any dispute that are raised outside the political arena by the politicians. Can a voter have a dispute that can be raised by the IBC to the IBC? Let's say, for example, issues on voter registration, omissions, incorrect information. How does IBC resolve such disputes when they come to its attention?
Those ones are now, I cannot refer to them as dispute resolutions contemplated by the Constitution, but these are administrative issues. If it's a question of voter registration, because if it's a question of relating to the voter registration, then this is an administration complaint. But the kind of disputes I'm referring to are quasi-legal disputes.
Okay, let's move on to the issue of the IBC now and its mandate in the electoral petitions, in the election petitions now. So many a times, and when actually it's not many a times, it is the law that wherever there's an election petition, in whichever form, MCA, gubernatorial, MP, member of parliament, president, the IBC is always named as a respondent in those petitions. I would like to hear your views on what you think about that and whether it should be an issue of law reform, in the sense that when IBC is named as a respondent, it ought to take a certain position in the petition, right? And the person was going to court challenging for, let's take an example of the presidential petition. The person was going to court challenging the validity of the declaration of the results is aggrieved. And IBC, being the body that was the referee, comes to court and takes a position to defend the person it declared as the winner. So I am just interested philosophically in understanding whether or not that should be the correct legal position, in the sense that it was a referee of the contest of these two people, the person who was declared the winner and the person who is now challenging that validity of that declaration. Should IBC not take a neutral position, in your view?
Yeah,
what do you think?
Thank you very much, Wakili. And as part of my review of what, if I'm given the opportunity to become the chairman of IBC, in the course of preparation for this interview and also familiarizing myself with the elections laws and everything, I've identified areas of law reform. And that is one of the provisions which I had concerned with, because in my legal practice as an advocate, it is the party who chooses the parties. It is not the law which chooses the parties, because some of these petitions are disputes between a candidate and a candidate. So then, why would you then bring in the IBC in a dispute whereby, unless it's only the candidate who has got a specific complaint against the IBC in terms of how it conducted the elections, how it breached the law, then you should make the IBC as a respondent. But an automatic enjoining of IBC by law in all electoral petitions, whether they're for MCAs or anybody, when the IBC has got no stake, has got no claim in that petition, I don't think it is a proper, it's proper, and the same ought to be relooked at, because it has an issue of costs. The biggest, one of the largest, that is the highest expenditure in legal services for IBC post-elections is payment of lawyers of their legal fees. And you know very well, as a lawyer in your practice, if you are brought in court, you're entitled to your fees. So that one also has an impact in terms of the IBC budgets. So that is an area which needs to be looked at when you're effecting, if I'm granted the opportunity to be the chairperson of IBC, using my legislative experience, legislative drafting experience, that is one of the issues I'll assist the commission to address.
All right, I hear you. So I am more keen on the neutrality of the IBC, because we cannot ignore the fact that IBC ought to be a part in the proceedings. But my concern is, what role does it ought to play? Because does it disadvantage the person who is in court to challenge, and gives an advantage to the person whose validity is being questioned, in the sense that IBC has taken a position that whatever it did, it's defending that, and the court is, it's that we, in Kenya, the processes we use is adversarial, right? So the court is not doing an inquisitory, it's adversarial. So that is my thinking, that, and I agree with you to a certain extent that there should be reform issues. Now to the last question. We have this animal called party hopping in Kenya, where a candidate is lost at, or rather the candidate loses a nomination and moves to a different party. Or during the lifetime of the term they're serving, they change parties or are seen to promote ideological ideas of another party. What do you think the IBC should come in and help in such instances? What is the mandate, or what is the role of the IBC in that regard?
I understand that your question has got two components. One is pre-election period, and the other one is during the electoral period, isn't it? Of course, the one during pre-election period is an issue of concern to political parties. It's one of the issues which was raised in ADCO in its own recommendation, whereby the political parties want an element of political discipline when people are already elected in a political party. You need to remain in that political party. The minute you espouse the policies of, or you make public declaration, or you change parties in between, then you've lost the sponsorship of the party which sponsored you. In other jurisdictions, you lose your position, you lose your seat. Although here it's written in law, but it's not implemented. So NADCO, in one of the recommendations, they have recommended, they even want to constitutionalize that issue. In the report, if you look at it, that issue wants to be elevated at the constitutional amendment level, so that there's a constitutional prescription against party hopping once you have been elected. But during the electoral period, before the nomination, the nomination is over, the issue which arises most of them is the issue of becoming an independent or running to another party. It runs counter. If you prescribe a bar on that one, it will definitely run counter against Article 38, which has got the right to vie. Because unless you cannot block a person, if maybe was rigged out in this particular nomination, then that particular person still has the constitutional right to vie in another party. But it's a question of the question of party membership also applies. Can you change your party membership at the last hour? But the constitutional rider on Article 38 will still play. But I think that is an issue to be provided for in the Political Parties Act.
So you've raised another issue that triggers my concern. Mm-hmm. When somebody, as you say, has been rigged out at the party primaries, and they become independent candidates, does that in any way promote democracy? And does it raise any concerns? Like, at one point, you were a member of a certain political party, then you did not get the certificate for nomination, then you resign from that party, and then you become an independent candidate. How does that sit within a democratic state?
Of course, the right to be an independent candidate is a constitutional provision. I think that is Article 85, which provides...
Sorry,
back to your question.
I am asking, in light of the fact that you were not independent from the very beginning. Yes. You were associated with a certain political ideology of a certain political party. But because it did not go the way you wanted for one reason or another, now you you come back now, you want to be independent.
Of course, it does not augur well in a democratic setup. What as IBC needs to do as a regulator of nominations, what the Constitution has prescribed as a function of IBC and the guiding principles of an electoral system, the IBC is supposed to regulate nominations. So what IBC should do, and I'm granted the opportunity to be the chairperson, that's an issue which I'm going to deal with, is to straighten up the issues of political parties nomination. We need to deal with the issues of political parties nomination because nominations are the first stage to an election. And in some instances, there are constituencies whereby if you win nomination, you've become an automatic, you have won the elections, basically. The election day is basically a crowning moment. So what IBC needs to do, and based on my experience in terms of law reform and legislation, is to implement the component of IBC which requires to draft the guidelines for nomination. IBC needs to step forward, number one, to frame clear guidelines on election nominations. Number two is also to police the election nominations so that we can build confidence. Part of this confidence deficit, people are talking about IBC and elections as a whole, is how shambolic way in which political parties are conducting their political parties nomination. So if IBC is able to come up with clear framework, because there's nobody else granted the same mandate in the Constitution other than IBC, then we'll stop this process of party hopping. You will lose your elections and the nomination, you will concede, and we'll move on and wait for the next election. But as long as the political parties, there are no clear guidelines, the conduct of elections, the nominations is still in doubt, then we'll always experience that challenge, which is not good for democracy.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Muvenge. All the best. And thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Caro. After a glass of water, we will ask Dr. Koki Muli to engage you briefly.
Good afternoon again.
Kitu naitwa linganisha. Hii mtu meusia watu wengi sana, akiusa yeye natoroka.
Na hata ukiangalia hii kwanza amebit kabisa, hii amefanya kazi mpaka
nikieleza hii mahakama kuhusu vile ulikuwa umelewa na ukausiwa viatu mbaya na mtu, unakuja kusema ni mimi. Nitakuwa nasema urongo, ndugu yangu.
Urongo Sauri, mimi nimemwambia wewe misuri.
Na viatu nilikuhusia? Hapana.
As an amendment of the Elections Act. The election, do I proceed?
Thank you very much. That's what I was looking for, unless you have something to add.
No. If you're contented, I'm okay with it.
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. We will now ask FCPA Tanui to also ask you some questions.
Bwana Muvenge.
Yes.
Yes. During your introduction, my colleague here, Vice Chair, asked you about skills. And one of the skills that you mentioned is that you have public finance management skills. Is that correct?
Yes, CPA Tanui.
Yes, and you also said that you've been an accounting officer for the County Assembly of Nairobi. You're accounting officer for how many years?
I was accounting officer for the duration of time I was a clerk. That is a period of 8 years.
So when did you leave County Assembly of Nairobi?
I left the County Assembly, ceased to be the clerk in the year 2022.
Which month?
That was around March.
March.
Yeah, there was in between, there were issues with the court cases and everything, and after the determination, that is when I ceased to be the accounting officer.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the responsibilities of any accounting officer under the PFM Act is to ensure that public resources are lawfully used, they are authorized, yeah, they are used in an economical, efficient, effective way, and in a transparent manner. When you mentioned that you are the accounting officer, I actually looked at the Auditor General's report for the County Assembly of Nairobi for the year 2022. And there were a lot of issues that were raised, issues on the financial statements. First of all, it was an adverse opinion, and I believe as an accounting officer, you know what an adverse opinion says with regard to your financial reports. You are aware what an adverse opinion means?
Yes, I'm aware of adverse opinion.
You are aware of that. Huh? So it was an adverse opinion for the financial statements. And they raised over 20 issues, touching on unsupported, unauthorized compensation to employees, payment of allowances to staff above their job grade. And of interest to me, since you are a lawyer and you are the accounting officer, is that you overshot your legal fees budget by over 7.7 million. And in terms of your report on lawfulness, effectiveness of public resources, there were 3 issues with regard to report on internal controls. So there were a lot of issues that were raised, actually a total of 26 audit queries that were raised by the Auditor General. So if appointed the chair, and you've told us you have these public finance management skills. And as I said, I think earlier today, that IEBC is one of the biggest beneficiaries of public resources. In fact, if you followed in the media recently, they were seeking for over 61 billion to conduct the 2027 general elections. So how will these public finance management skills that you've told us you have, given the finding of the Auditor General in the County Assembly with regard to use of public resources and the big picture that we have for this country as chair of IEBC?
Thank you very much, CPA Tanui. As I mentioned to you, that there were court issues. From the period between 2019 to 2022, I was not the functional clerk. There were court orders which had decided that I step aside from the official discharge of the duties. They were made by the employment court, and therefore, even if on record was still the clerk and everything, if you look at those accounts audited report, you will see the person who has signed the financial statement. If you can peruse, you'll realize that I'm not the one who signed the financial statement. You know very well that it's accounting officer who is supposed to sign the financial statements. So those are not accounting statements of the period in which I was functionally the accounting officer. That is from period of 2019 to 2022, there were acting clerks. There were a series of acting clerks. The court had already ruled due to the issues which were in the assembly, then I step aside. But the period between 2013 to 2019 had clean auditor reports, had clean opinion from the Auditor General. You can look at them. They're available in the public domain. These issues arose during that period of time with the officers who took up the institution. So in terms of running a clean, an efficient institution in terms of financial management, my period from 2013 to 2019, those reports of the Auditor General are very clear that we were very effective in the use of public finance. I understand that the IBC, as you have already put, the IBC is one of the biggest, it has a huge budget, and those expenditure patterns are during the period of time, during the elections period. Therefore, the IBC Commission, pursuant to its constitutional mandate to provide, to formulate policies and formulate strategies, even though it is not the commission which is the accounting officer. The commissioners are not the accounting officer. The accounting officer is the secretary to the commission. But using the policy formulation and the strategies of mandate and oversight mandate, I'll be in a position to assist the commission to achieve its financial obligations without raising any queries with the Auditor General. And I'm aware that issues have been raised with the Auditor General, but I can be of assistance so that the Commission can get clean reports like the ones which I got when I was an accounting officer.
Why I raise that question is that you told us actually you were the clerk until 2022. You didn't tell us from 2019 to 2022 you are not in office. That is when you did your introduction. So it's on that basis that I was picking up that issue.
But anyway,
yes.
Let me just raise something in relation to what he has said.
Yeah.
In the year that when he was the accounting officer, year ended 2018, June 30th, there was 211 million shillings paid outside IFMIS from the auditor's report. 211, 351, 680 were made outside IFMIS during the financial year 2017-2018 as tabulated below by the County Assembly.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are audit queries on your accounts for the year that you are the accounting officer, even though you have mentioned that there was none.
The issues I'm saying is that that report, I don't think whether it gave an adverse opinion. What we need to understand is that from the period of 2013 to maybe recently, the assemblies were not, the IFMIS was not, all of us were not on IFMIS, the IFMIS has not been rolled out to the entire county governments. It's only recently that we have had a complete rollout of IFMIS. So invariably, because of the challenges of IFMIS, the system like in Nairobi, that issue of IFMIS, paying out of IFMIS, was an issue which was cleared by the committee when it was established that the assembly had not been integrated. The IFMIS system had not been brought to the assembly, so it proposed that payments had to be paid out of IFMIS, but there was no loss of public funds.
Okay.
The report does not say that there was loss of public funds. It's just a question of that payments were not paid on IFMIS, but there was no loss of public funds because these were just processes, because the IFMIS took a while for it to be completely rolled out in the counties.
Fair enough. The 3.2 bank reconciliations, the Assembly did not prepare bank reconciliations for 5 bank accounts disclosed, and then he details the amounts there. So there's quite a bit from the reports that you have alluded to have been clean. I think there's quite a lot. It's just the time does not allow us. But can you please proceed?
Thank you, Chair, for those clarifications. Let's move on. One of the areas that have come out, and I think you did mention that there are several bills and regulations that are yet to be enacted or promulgated that touch on IEBC. One of them is the IEBC fund. What would you, as a chair of IEBC, what would you do to operationalize that fund? It is there in law. And as you give us a way forward, how different will that fund be, or how helpful will it be to the operations of IEBC, given the current funding arrangement that is done through the Exchequer? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. The issue of IEBC fund is not unique to the IEBC only, the issue of funds. It's also an issue at the judiciary with respect to the judiciary fund. It's also an issue at the parliamentary service regarding to the parliamentary fund. Even where I was in the county assembly, our laws which governs operations establish the county assembly service fund. But the law can establish fund, but the fund has to be funded. So that's where the problem is. The fund is basically like a basket, it's like an account. It doesn't generate its own money. It is a repository where extra resources can be kept so that they can be plugged back in after years. If you're not using these resources, you can. So the idea of a fund in terms of when you establish this institution, it means if at the end of your financial year, you had been given a budget of 16 billion and you're not able to extinguish the entire budget and you have left with maybe a surplus of around 5 million, you can deposit that fund, that amount of money into the fund so that it can be carried over. Unlike the financial system whereby at the end of every financial year, the PFM requires those budgetary resources to revert back to the treasury. So when you have a fund, the funds are supposed to be deposited there. The other use of the fund is when you are getting special funds for particular purposes, special purposes. Like maybe you had requisition funds for voter delimitation exercise, and the treasury had already allocated resources of around 5 billion for that particular exercise, and for one reason or another, that exercise is not able to be executed. Instead of returning those resources back to the national treasury, the resources can be deposited there. Of course, the other one is also extra funding. So this fund has always been a big debate with the national treasury. Due to limited resources, they argue that there's a lot of demand from the entire Exchequer has got a lot of claim. So there's no, that is the argument, it's not my argument, that it will not be useful when we actually borrowing money from the banks to pay your recurrent expenditures, then we give you the money and you keep it in a fund. But the reason why the IEBC fund was supposed to be kept is that these resources can remain with IEBC even if they're not utilized, all of them. It's a question of engagement with the National Treasury so that they can understand. And for that reason, it's very incumbent upon the IEBC commissioners who understand this public finance arrangement to negotiate. And that's why I'm offering myself based on my political skills. It's a question of negotiation with the National Treasury. When I was the clerk of the County Assembly of Nairobi, the requirement was that we'll get money from the National Treasury real time. Yet parliaments don't get money real time. Parliaments operate within immediate needs. There's a need for money today, then you need to pay for that services. But the controller of budget had come up with guidelines whereby you can only first of all requisition the funds, and once you requisition the funds, that's when you're going to be paid. But the funds may be to pay for an emergency, maybe a trip or a retreat or something. So what I did, using my political management skill and experience, had a meeting with Madam Agnes Odhiambo. And we agreed, explained to her, look, the assemblies are different. We really need to have money in our bank account to fund our operations. And the agreement we agreed on, that she will allow us to get 20 million in advance. We utilize that 20 million, and then we account later, then we get the next refill. And for that purpose, we are able to have a sustainable flow of activities without interruption. And that is a negotiation. So IEBC requires that skill, that you can be able to go to offices and negotiate. You can go and explain your position to the National Treasury, because Having interacted with the National Treasury, myself as an accounting officer, it's all about negotiation. It's all about explaining your position and understanding. Then this fund can be activated, it can get money. Those activities, when we have not utilized our resources, we can still retain the resources so that we don't even end up with issues of something like pending bills. One of the greatest causes of pending bills is that the financial year comes to an end, you already have a contract which is ongoing, and by the time the new financial year has hit in, then the resources have already been transferred back to the National Treasury, and you are supposed to rebudget again. But when you have a fund, if IBC was in the process of procuring some goods and services, it's able to store those resources in the fund because they had already been budgeted and paid back at the end, at the advent of the new financial year. You will be in a position now to go back to the fund and pick up those resources. It's a question of having a pocket. I'm not able to buy today, I've put the money in this pocket. Tomorrow, I'll be able to pay when you deliver the goods. That is basically the idea surrounding the IBC fund.
Thank you. And lastly, now given your area of expertise as an accounting officer, you've appointed the chair of IBC. What accountability mechanism or structures will you put in place to ensure that the resources that have been given to IBC, aware that you are not the accounting officer, but you are responsible for the commission. You are the head of that election management body. So what structures as the chair and chair of commissioners will you put in place for accountability and transparency in the use of public resources?
Of course, the utilization, the expenditures I've already agreed is that it's a work of the accounting officer, but it is the IBC, the commission, to exercise oversight and provide the strategic directions and the policies for utilization of the resources. So I'll implement two mechanisms. First is a question of procurement planning, financial planning and procurement planning. One of the areas whereby you have challenges in terms of effective utilization of the resources is lack of proper procurement planning. Of course, it is a work of the for the accounting officer to procure goods and services, but it is a work of the commission to approve the procurement plan. So at that level, using the relevant committee of the commission, that is the finance, I know the IBC has got a finance and a supply chain committee, that committee can engage the secretariat periodically so that they can have quarterly. What we used to have in the county assembly when the clerk of the assembly, every financial year before the beginning of the financial year, almost 3 months, anticipating the budget that we are going to have, we will come up with the procurement plans for the other financial year. Then we'll have it approved by the board, we'll have a discussion with the board. So every quarterly, we will present our progress reports to the subcommittee, the relevant subcommittee of the board, so that we can have a conversation and engagement, so that discussion is there. So in terms of yes,
that's one.
Yes.
The second one, so that we save on time.
Say
two strategies. One is the procurement plan. The other one is?
The other one is establishment of these committees so that they have clear mandates. If you look at the IBC, the commission committees do not have an establishment. They are not clear in terms of their mandate, and that is one of the recommendations which was made in the Kregler's report. If you look at the Kregler's report, he actually pointed out that these committees of IBC, they have got no foundation in legislation. So we really need to enhance the functionality of the committees by stipulating their mandate in legislation through law reform. That is what I'll also, so that these committees can be robust, so that there's no pull back and forth between the Secretariat and the Commission that you interfere in our line of control, yet the committees have got clear mandate in terms of that effective oversight of the resources.
Wish you well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, SCP Tanui. This time, I want to ask Evans Misati to ask you some questions.
Thanks so much, Chair. Mr. Mfenge, now I want to ask you a question related to the level of preparedness that we need to have as a country, before the 2027 general election, if you are given an opportunity and you are the chair, assume you are the chair of IPC today, or rather when you are given that opportunity, what would be your priority areas in preparation for the 2027 general election? Just to mention a few, not.
Thank you very much, Member Misati, Mr. Misati. We are all aware that by the time this process of constituting the commission is in place, we'll only have hardly 2 years to the election. And if you look at the what we refer to as the electoral cycle, we are now in the second electoral cycle, which is pre-election cycle, which comprises of activities where this is when there's trainings, planning, information, and voter registration exercise. So the commission, when it takes office, and if I'm lucky and privileged to be appointed as a commissioner, the first priority area of engagement will be law reforms. You cannot conduct, they recommend law reform. Law reform means we really need to work on our laws. That is the IBC, as I mentioned, currently has got 4 pieces of legislations which are critical for smooth functions of the election. The other, IBC also has got almost around 8 regulations which also requires to be taken to Parliament and approved by Parliament before they are gazetted. So that will be my immediate priority, to use my legislative expertise and my political management experience to assist the Commission to navigate and to ensure these regulations are in place before the elections are run. Because we have a culture, and the Supreme Court has actually, and other courts have said, there's a culture that these elections laws are passed 3 months or 6 months or to the elections. So if I become the chairperson of IBC, I'll ensure that the elections laws are passed. I'll assist the Commission to ensure that the election laws are passed early. The other issue I'll deal with is the issue of voter registration. We really need to deal with that issue of voter registration. We'll have to look at the direction in which the issue of boundary delimitation.
That is sorted. If you can kindly mention them.
Oh, I mentioned them.
So
don't want explanation. So, okay, if it's a question of mentioning, I deal with the issue of electoral planning and operations, sorting out the issues of the logistics of IBC. I'll have to organize a logistical program which runs from 2 years to the election time, so that some activities of the elections which are non-essential can be brought forward and can be handled within the pre-election period. And basically, that is my answer.
Thanks so much. Now, it's in public domain that in the past, the political influence or attempt to influence the IPC through a commissioner is a risk. So what do you think you can do as a chair if you are faced with such an influence, and how will you mitigate that as a commission? You know what happened in Pomas? The boardroom rapture, such like issues. So how do you think you'll be able to face that or mitigate that as if you are a chair of the IPC?
Thank you very much, Mr. Misati. Of course, it's very important that if I become the chairperson of the commission, to make my members understand. Of course, the law provides that before you assume a state office, you must swear an oath of office. That is the most important thing. Then you must also subscribe to a code of conduct. So it's very important at the outset for the members of the commission to understand the code of conduct and the extent, especially Article 74 and 75 of the Constitution. So
Are you saying the ones who did that had not sworn the code of conduct, or not sworn it to? They are done the same. So what is it that you can do different, please, so that we are able to move? The people who did that, the influence that happened, the same commissioners had been sworn, they had sworn, they had taken oath. So what different can you do?
What I can do, of course, I was building up on the issue of sensitization. There's a question of understanding the code of conduct. Number 2, I'll also use the system of ADR. My political skills have been in the parliament. I've been in committees of parliament. I've been in committees of the county assembly, and the issues of conflict of interest, issues of member behaving badly, or members crossing the line, or issues of integrity, sometimes they'll arise. The skill which you have learned in those institutions, first of all, is to deal with the members. What we say, can you empty the secretariat out so that we have a one-on-one meeting? Because if I say that the minute we are aware of that, we institute Article 251 process of removal, I don't think that will be the first. The first step will be, first of all, to deal with the ADR. You must have a bare knuckle meeting. I've been in committees of parliament whereby members have had bare knuckle discussions. Where you must change. That is the first strategy. Number two, if a member does not change, if the conduct of that particular member borders criminality, if the conduct of that member infringes on the Electoral Offences Act, then we'll institute a relevant complaint as a commission to the relevant agencies to take charge. Thirdly, if that conduct, again, we in our own discussion, that is an issue which it has to be agreed as a commission, then we can sign a petition to institute or to start Article 251 process for removal of a member. But my political skills, my political experience skills means that, first of all, you must have coherence, you must have cohesion, and you must have communication channels in the commission so that when these issues are rising, you yourself, you can first of all handle them. If you're not able to handle them, then the law will take its course.
Thanks so much. You have tried to answer the question. Now, lastly, you are aware that the political parties, as the key stakeholders, how will you manage the political parties in a scenario where you find that political parties have diverse interests and a situation where they put pressure on you? Which mechanism can you use to ensure that there is dialogue to engage the political parties so that when you have your plans as IEBC, election management plans, the regulations that you're talking about, you mentioned about regulations and wanting to make sure that they are passed. You cannot be able to pass them without involving the key stakeholders who are actually the users. It's like a football game. You have to tell the players the rules of the game. So what will you do to ensure that you have a smooth learning relations with the political parties?
The first point is we should, as a commission, develop a stakeholder plan specifically tailor-made to deal with this one particular stakeholder. We have the broader stakeholder plan, but we must have a stakeholder strategy
kitu naitwa linganisa. Hii mtu meusia watu wengi sana, akiusa yeye natoroka.
Na hata ukiangalia hii kwanza amebit kabisa, hii amefanya kazi mpaka
nikieleza hii mahakama kuhusu vile ulikuwa umelewa na ukaushiwa viatu mbaya na mtu, unakuja kusema ni mimi, nitakuwa nasema urongo ndugu yangu.
Urongo Sauri, mimi nimemwambia wewe misuri.
Kwa viatu nilikuhusia? Hapana.
That this feedback can enrich our legislative process. So that has been my experience as advisor of the Assembly in terms of the requirements and how to conduct stakeholder engagement in critical matters of law. And granted an opportunity to be the chairperson of IEBC, having undergone through this particular process, having first-hand experience in terms of the legal consequences of not undertaking or not undertaking an effective stakeholder engagement, I'll be in a position to assist the Commission to navigate this particular process through my expertise and experience.
Thank you. I just want to do one small follow-up question to the question that was asked by CPA Tanui. Sorry, FCPA Tanui. And you are trying to suggest that IEBC can actually be keeping money, or rather funds, beyond the stipulated financial period. Did you know that the 1-year financial period stipulated for every government agency and institution is purposely meant to control performance? And in that, if an institution is not able to utilize the funds allocated in a year, it is a sign of lack of good performance. If you're not able to absorb, if an institution is not able to absorb the monies meant for that financial year, then it means there is lack of capacity or competence to use the money. Or something else has changed, because that is always the assumption. I don't know what the expert has to say on this, but I don't want to involve you in a debate, but I just wanted to point that one out so that you don't leave the room thinking that that would be appropriate.
Basically, I can assist, I can just basically answer. Of course, if at the end of financial year, you have not exhausted your budget resources, it means there's a challenge in terms of your internal processes, how you have been able to manage your public finance resources, in terms of procurement planning, and also implementation of those particular plans. That one is basically for a commission, that will be an issue. As an oversight, part of oversight mandate of the commission, that will be one of the issues the commission should ask itself. Out of our procurement plan, why have you not been in a position to utilize these resources, and have you led us to have surplus resources or to return money to the treasury? However, back to your question, of course, the Public Finance Management Act provides for that. This money must, at the end of the financial year, all the unutilized resources, they're supposed to revert back to the national treasury. However, as a legislative expert, because I've drafted similar legislations which have got funds, I've drafted the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Act, which restructured CARI and established CALRO. As a part of legislative design, you can create a fund within the particular law for reasons, but although the budget committees in Parliament frown against that kind of drafting. So basically, there are certain exemptions made to certain institutions so that they can be allowed to keep money beyond their financial year. And that is why the legislative design is to have that money deposited in a fund. So that fund now can be, if you have not been able to complete, or maybe this particular procurement process for if you start procuring Kim's kit now, and we have already obtained almost 10 billion from the National Treasury for IBC for the next financial year. And then this process has been marred with court cases like it has happened before, where the matters have dragged all the way to the Court of Appeal. The IBC, the idea to have the fund is that this money now for that exemption or circumstance can be deposited in the fund, so that once you resolve, because the procurement has already been started, and by the end of the day, the court can also agree that the procurement was done properly. You will now proceed and continue with the procurement. But what will happen if you don't have those resources? You'll have to go back and restart procurement afresh. So that is the legislative design of having a fund. And that's why it has been given to few institutions: Parliament, Judiciary, IBC, and also the county assemblies. That's the one in the legislative design, the funds are created for that particular purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask Bwana Bore to also ask you some questions.
Mugenge.
Yes, sir.
In the discussions you've had with you, one of your strengths you believe is political persuasions and ability to negotiate. You have mentioned a few cases where you talked to the Auditor General to allow you to do some arrangements so that you can have some little money to spend. While that is the case, between 2017 and 2018, and I think 2019, you spend most of your time running away from your office, maybe because of MCAs and the clerk of the assembly trying to chase you away from office. Wouldn't you use your political skills to negotiate yourself back to the office?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bore. I think if you were to ask me today, the job of a clerk of assembly, it's a job which I cannot say I cannot take. That's why I'm taking the IEBC job, because it's equivalent to that one. But these are political offices. Like the one in the county assembly was an issue again of a political dispute between me as an accounting officer and my chair lady or the speaker. Those tensions which we have also had within the county assemblies, whereby a new leadership comes to office, and because of the positions you have taken in terms of firmness, processes, and the firmness and how you want to implement things, a political decision is made out there to hold you out of office. So those are the challenges I encountered. The first one, first of all, was to institute a malicious criminal case against myself and my management officers. We were arrested, Kamata Friday, we were thrown out, we went to court, and the court under Section 210 returned us back to office. So the job of a CEO without proper structures has got those challenges. And that's why, if I'm given the opportunity to become the CEO, sorry, the term has been my lingo for many years, the chairperson of the IEBC, I'll be able to assist the commission to navigate that terrain so that we don't have these unnecessary tensions between the commission and the secretariat, the chairperson and the CEO. I've lived that experience. I've gone through that experience, and what I can do if I sit at that different side, I'll be able to assist the commission not to navigate that one, so that the secretariat is given the latitude to discharge its duties. Back to your question whether I need to negotiate my way back, after I left the assembly, I decided to, because I'd gained experiences, I'd gained competencies, I decided to open a law firm so that I can go back to what I'd set up in life to do, that is practice of law, and also to set up a consultancy so that I can now use my skills which I'd acquired in assisting other institutions. So going back, negotiating back to the county assembly, I think that was a period of time which was very good. I was able to set up the institution from zero to what it is today. So I believe that in life you have to go to the next step and take up the next challenge. And this is now the challenge I'm coming in to take, if you give me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mubenge. Now, in 2018, you just alluded that you are charged in the court of law, and you are charged with 5 others with very serious offenses under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, the Penal Code, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, for unlawful acquisition of public property. Maybe this is a chance for you to explain to the public how that ended, and is it part of the problems that you faced at the County Assembly of Nairobi?
Thank you very much for bringing that particular issue. As having set up the institution in 2013, I was able, by 2017, I'd established the entire institution. So in 2017, there was change of leadership in the assembly. Because the clerk is a permanent officer, now you get a new political leadership. And during those particular process, a decision was made my political leadership to get rid of, to hound us out of office, because that is what that issue I've said, that is what the court found, to order us out of office, together with my management team and also the leaders of the board. So part of the scheme was to create a fictitious or malicious accusation that we had not supplied, we had paid for goods not delivered, books worth around 800,000, and that complaint was based on a draft report of the internal auditor. We were arrested, Kamata Friday, we went to court, we were charged, and the court, we were acquitted under section 210, which means you had no case to answer. And the court in its judgment basically made a finding that this case was maliciously brought by the complainant to effect a change in the institution. So this was basically a classic case of abusing the legal process to get rid of officers. And of course, these are the perils of public service in this country. And having undergone that particular process, if you grant me this opportunity to be the chairperson of the IEBC, I will not want to visit the same on my officers or the secretary. I don't think that we need to weaponize the criminal process to remove people from office. Though that was the genesis of the case, and the judgment is here. I've come with a judgment, and if you look at it, you will see the court, when acquitting us, it actually made that finding, that those charges were baseless, the complaint was baseless, and it was malicious case.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish you the best, Mubenge.
Thank you very much. And you, together with the ambassador, you have actually pronounced the name the way it's supposed to be pronounced.
Okay, let's try Mubenge. We want to ask Professor Adam Solo to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Chair Jacob. Just some preliminaries before I shoot my question. At the moment that you are applying,
move close to the mic.
At the moment that you are applying for this chairmanship, were you aware that the Parliamentary Service Commission would be providing secretarial services to the selection panel?
Actually, I was not aware. I just saw the advertisement the last minute. I moved very quickly. I just picked up, even if you look at my CV, I had not had an opportunity to engage on it, so I did not know that the Parliamentary Service Commission will provide the secretariat services to this particular body.
That is in spite of your legislative expertise that you told us that is your forte. Anyway, I won't ask because you knew what I was going to ask.
Yes, I know.
Now let me go back to where my good friend Bore has left. Because one of the things that you talked about as your skill set when you are answering the vice chair, and as Bore has clarified, was political skills. And I think you have spent some time showing us how your case was weaponized politically. What Bore was trying to say was that if you have political skills, then isn't it also true that in that political divide, you had your side of the political class fighting your case? What do I mean? That after you were acquitted, rightly so, you decided not to take public office, that even the one you took in Isiolo is more of advisory. And it happens, using your political skills, that the governor there was at one point both minority and majority leader in the Nairobi County Assembly. What does that tell us, given the job that you want to take, which is a political office? Wouldn't one insinuate that if you became IEBC chair, you'd use your political skills?
Thank you very much. Before I answer your question, I think I need to put into context what I meant by political management skills. Political management skill did not mean I'm a politician. I meant that I've been a political manager of politicians. So a clerk of the county assembly is a political manager, is a manager of politicians. So being a manager of politicians, in the course of your process, you become a political manager. You acquire political management skills. The law governing the officers of parliament, both at the Parliamentary Service Commission and the County Assembly Service, requires that the officers of these institutions must be non-partisan. You should not be aligned to any political side. That is what I learned in parliament, and that is what, when I was in the assembly, I was non-partisan. Had I been a politician there, had I had a political side, I'll be back in office. But because I decided to be an officer, what I've learned before is not align yourself to anybody, go there, do your job. I went to City Hall without knowing any politician. I was sent, I carried my laptop, I arrived, and I set up institution. But in the course of my doing the work which I'd set up to do, which I thought is what is in parliament, whereby the officers in parliament are insulated from the political intrigues, I found myself thrown in. And thrown into that particular moment, that is where now I found myself in, and I had to leave because now I'm a Kamba in Nairobi. I don't have any political, I don't belong to ODM, I don't belong to Jubilee. So, but the problem, that is how it was. Working for the governor in Isiolo, the governor was, when we started the assembly, he was my minority leader, he was my majority leader later, and also he was my member of the board. So we worked well with him. And he understood my professional confines, he understood my legal skills, he appreciated my knowledge of the law, he appreciated that it doesn't require a courtier to please him. Sitting there as a governor, he needs a legal counsel who is able to give him independent legal advice out of the legal department within the county. And that's why he requested me to come in as a legal advisor so that I can be giving him that independent legal advice whenever the need calls upon. So it was not because he was my political protector, it's just because during the course of engagement with him, he actually appreciated the limits and my skills and my integrity in terms of integrity and also my legal skills.
I know him very well. That's why I brought it up. Now, Jacob Ngwele, after being acquitted, he says that these political intrigues and public office, I'm done with it. I want to go and open my law firm and do what I professionally was trained for. Those are your words. Yeah?
I did not leave because I was acquitted. I came back to office, and then
a new political regime.
Yes, no, okay. It was during the new political regime that after they failed to get me out with the criminal case, they went ahead and instituted another process, and in between I realized that.
You decided, let me go and open my law firm and proceed, and then barely 2 years later, Jacob Ngwele again is like, I want a public office. Where does Jacob Ngwele draw the line? Wouldn't the same political intrigues follow you into the IEBC chairmanship? Or what clothing does IEBC chairmanship have that will keep you away from the political intrigues that drove you away from the clerk of the Nairobi County Assembly?
Thank you very much, Council. I have to put the issue into context. What I said is that there was a court case, and afterwards, my political, I can call the leadership, I don't want to name names here, but whoever had the desire to hound us out of office devised another scheme. And that scheme was basically to question how my transition from parliament to the county assembly how it happened, and that the issue, of course, was created there, that I was not properly there. So many issues arose, and basically my natural inclination was to go back to parliament because I'd come on secondment. But I realized at that particular point that instead of going back to parliament, having grown through the profession, having attained certain skill sets, having attained certain experience, it was good for me. It will be demoralizing for me to go back at a junior position. It's better now to grow further and pick up the next challenge, which it's the destiny of us lawyers. So I will not be a quitter. Become a chairman of IBC, I'll not be a quitter.
Lastly, can you share with the panel any experience you have had in managing teams and resolving conflicts, especially in high-pressure situations, if you have come across any?
Thank you very much. I'll still draw back to my long experience in the legislature, both the national and county assembly, is that being at the heart of the political process, you are the one who is called upon to give the advice or to provide guidance in that particular process. I was the head of the secretariat. And being the head of the secretariat there, I had officers behind me. So basically, I was the team captain. I was the head of the team, which was required to motivate the team so that they can implement. During my period of time, throughout the period I was there, we normally used to encounter on a daily basis challenges which our politicians could not even understand. But as the team captain, drawing from my skill sets and my ability to navigate those particular processes, I will lead the team to deliver what was required, both from the leadership in the assembly in terms of the work we're supposed to do, and also from the executive. So throughout the period of time, the achievements I was able to achieve in terms of building the chamber of the assembly and committee room, I did not do it alone. I did it as a team captain of a well-organized team which had procurement officers, accountants, and architects. So, and most of these processes, we used to do them under pressure. Pressure of time, pressure of resources. Therefore, I have the inbuilt capacity to withstand pressure. I also have the ability to manage teams so that I basically can describe myself as a transformational leader. I'm able to identify a problem. I'm able to pick up a vision for that particular problem, and then I'm able to manage the team, to guide them so that they can achieve that particular objective. So I'm a team player.
Thank you, Chair.
Do you have some quick questions, please, for the candidate?
Bwanangwele, you have told us the way one of your skill sets is in legislative experience. One of the celebrated legislative administrators and served for very long as a parliamentary clerk in the 70s. He wrote Parliamentary Practice in Kenya. More recently, posthumously, he wrote, or his writings were published, Parliamentary Demise and Rebirth in Kenya. Who is that person?
The clerks have known, this one might have been James Ngugi. Rather, it was James Ngugi because the clerks of parliament, one was James Ngugi, then you have Japheth Masia, you had Lindiri, and then you had Gishoi. So if he was in 70s, the clerk who was in office at 70s was basically James Ngugi. And James Ngugi was succeeded by Japheth Masia, that was now post-70s. So
let me try and correct a little bit.
Yes.
Do you know of a parliamentary staffer who wrote those two books?
Yeah, if it's a parliamentary staffer, then it's definitely my colleague, my former colleague, Kirui.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't know whether I've answered you. Have I got it right?
That one will be for the panel to decide whether you got it right or not. But I like the way you have walked through the previous clerks. That's why I was revising the question. You served in the city of Directors. What's the difference between Nairobi City as a county and Kisumu City as a county?
Thank you very much. Kisumu City as a county is with respect to the municipality of Kisumu, that is a city, under the Urban Areas and Urban Areas Act, whereby you can recognize certain cities which have grown in terms of population and development into cities, but that does not change their nature, that is their county. However, Nairobi County is a county and also a city. All of them are merged together. So you'll never go and create the city of Kariobangi or the city of Buruburu. There'll always be one city in Nairobi. But if Kisumu was privileged enough, they can have two cities if they're able to grow those urban areas to the levels envisaged under the Urban Areas and Cities Act to be cities. They'll gain recognition, so you'll have one county with two cities. But Nairobi is a city and a county.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Uvenge. We have enjoyed this discussion with you. Very robust responses and answers, and we are grateful that you came. We would like to ask you if you have any question for us or any comment you'd like to make, kindly.
Thank you very much, members of the panel. I'm very grateful. I've gone for interviews before. This is one of the most engaging interviews because the traditional format of interviews I'm used to is who is this, what is parliamentary practice, what is the section line of the law and everything. And this one is one of the best interviews I've ever attended in terms of able to draw out the particular, the qualities of that particular candidate. Thank you very much for the exercise you're undertaking. I wish you the best, and I wish you the best so that you can deliver for the country the best commission to deliver the will of Kenyans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wishing you all the best in your endeavors. Feel free to pick the water with you and the notebook. You find your documents as you walk out. Thank you very much and blessings to you.
Thank you very much, and Chairman and members of the panel.
Asante. We have one candidate to go. So can we have a short break, 5 minutes, to allow Fatuma also to pray, and then we come back. We come back at 17:20 to proceed with the next session. So media, we ask you just to give us 2 minutes. We need to finish something, then we can be able to take that break.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke.